The views and opinions expressed on the Veterans in Politics radio show and podcast are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of Vegas All Net Radio, its affiliates, or its parent company.
We're back. This is Steve Sanson and Jim Jonas. Jim.
How's it going, Steve?
What happened last week?
Oh, I had some stuff I had to take care of.
Yeah, I had Jennifer Barrier as my co-host.
Oh, so I'm sure you were in a better mood last week than you.
I was. My chair was a lot closer than it is now.
Smart guy.
Yeah. Well, this is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas with Veterans in Politics. And today's guests, we're going to have, and Faith Sanson, she's in the studio as well. And today's guests, we're going to have, Faith, that is the host, okay? You just sit there and don't say anything, okay? First guest we're going to have is the first guest we're going to have is Sheila Leslie, who is the Nevada State Senator representing Washoe County. And then we're going to have Susan Johnson, who is the Clark County District Court Judge. So, Jim, anything exciting, new happening?
Oh, yeah, a little bit. At work this week is pretty interesting. I have some team members, and they just constantly kept complaining. Yeah. And, I was trying to do the HR thing and be appropriate and stuff. And then finally, I became myself, and I called them into the office and closed the door. And the discussion just went around, if you're not happy with this job, then just leave or try to find another one. Right. Because I know if I was miserable where I was working, I'd try to find another job.
Right. There's a lot of jobs out there just throwing themselves at you.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And that was kind of my point. So then it got interesting because most of them kept going, well, this job sucks because of this and this and this. And I said, well, you know what? Just face it. And I want all the callers to understand this, too. Most of us are not working on our plan A. Okay, somewhere along the line, what we wanted to be is not what we ended up being or what we wanted to do for a living, and that's just life.
That's right.
So I'm reminded of former governor of Texas, the one that George W. Bush defeated for governor. I think she made probably the clearest statement I've ever heard a Democrat make. Look, you only got one life, and if you screw it up, it's your fault.
When I was growing up, there was two things I wanted to be.
What's that?
One was a Marine, and the other one was a New York police department. Police officer. Police department. I want to be the whole damn department. New York police officer, but I did one, didn't do the other.
Yeah, well, you were a Marine, so you got one of your goals out of the way, and that's more than most people do.
That's true.
So then we get, I was all excited about next week's show, partly because you won't be here and Deborah Vick will, but the other part was that I would get to interview Speaker of the Assembly, John O'Seguera, but I guess you got a phone call from him this week saying he wasn't going to.
Yeah, his assistant called me. He didn't even call me himself, saying that he would not be on the program. I don't know why. He's running for Congress, right? Correct?
Yeah, running for Congress.
And no excuses. They're the ones that set the date and time up, and all of a sudden, a week prior to the show, they cancel out. One or two things I would think. Either they're scared, he's scared to dickens of us, or he has no respect. So I guess which one? Fair or non-respectful?
I think both.
Somebody like that I would not vote for at all.
Not me either. Yeah, I think he just didn't want to answer some questions like, do you really think that your job justifies a $300,000 a year salary when troops in Afghanistan make $1,200 a month?
Yeah, and they're getting shot at every day.
Yeah. Or,
or what was he double dipping while he was up at the assembly?
Yeah.
A little stuff like that. I was going to have Commissioner Steve Sisolak call in and voice his opinion as well. Maybe those are the questions he was probably scared of.
Yeah. It'd be interesting that if John Ralston will ask him those questions, or if he'll softball him like he does every other Democrat.
No, John Ralston is a softballer anyway. Yeah. He's not going to ask those questions. You just act tough.
Yeah.
Give him a mic, you act tough. Take away the mic, see him in the parking lot like I did. All of a sudden he's a wimp.
But anyways, very true.
But you know something, Jim, you know how proactive the Veterans of Politics is in Veterans Court.
Yes.
Well, I went one step further because a lot of veterans came back to me and told me that when a veteran is arrested and at CCDC, which is Clark County Detention Center for you folks out there that's never been arrested before, a lot of veterans suffer PTSD while they're incarcerated.
Correct, yes.
And the only ones that could recognize PTSD and know what to do are the Crisis Awareness Unit.
Right.
Other than that, the jail staff don't know anything about it, so they mock them, they laugh at them, and they don't give them their meds or nothing like that. So I met with Chief Dixon, who is the congratulations, Chief Dixon. He just got promoted to undersheriff. He used to be the deputy chief for CCDC. He's now the undersheriff for Clark County Sheriff's Department. And I spoke to him, and he said that he was going to talk to some folks and possible change departmental policies and get these jail staff aware of PTSD. Hey, Faith, you don't have a mic. What are you doing talking?
She doesn't need a mic.
Ah. Okay. So, yeah.
See, that's what you get by with when you're adorable, Steve.
Isn't she cute? You know, I waited over 2 hours today in the urgent care with her and found out that that somehow she wasn't on my insurance policy. So they wouldn't see her. So you have all these illegals that clog up the system, right? And they get served. And here you are. You have a father that served 12 years in the U.S. military, served in combat with a U.S. citizen daughter, and I'm U.S. citizen as well, not being able to get seen. Isn't that some crapola?
Yes, it is.
What's wrong with this country?
I don't know. You might want to ask our lovely president that's going to raise taxes in the middle of a double dip recession. But anyways, of course, that's George Bush's fault. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's absolutely. Do you have any more rants?
Well, just one thing. I beat up on the president a lot, but he actually did do something good this week. He relaxed a lot of the restrictions for the No Child Left Behind Act. So it gives a little more leeway for the states, and I think that's a good thing. I don't think the federal government should be running education anyway. So, you know, if I'm going to be hard on the guy, I got to give him his credit where credit's due. So that was a good thing.
Well, I was critical on Congressman Joe Heck last week because he was talking about putting pensions, the military pensions, some kind of 401k, and have them get it on 60, 65 years old instead of after 20 years after they served.
Well, that comes from somebody that's never really seen combat before. Though,
true.
Right?
He's never really seen combat, and he was a reservist.
Yeah, right.
You know, yeah.
But he did send us that really cool. Remember the Lincoln Day dinner in 2008 where he sent us that really cool, video broadcast of himself in Iraq waving. Yeah,
waving. And he did have time to publish some articles for the Sun while he was a combat medical surgeon.
Yeah, interesting enough.
Yeah,
there must not have been many people hurt.
No, not where he was at. Yeah. He had time to write publications for the Las Vegas Sun. I know when I was in combat, I didn't even know it was my birthday until 5 o'clock that afternoon.
Right.
You know, because I was so doggone busy.
Yeah.
You know, maybe he had a lot of time in combat.
Oh.
Yeah. I wonder if he ever pressed the trigger before.
I don't know.
I doubt it.
We should probably get. You know what? Never mind. He won't. He won't come
because
on this program again after what I did to him last
if he would have pressed the trigger in defense of our country and actually take a human life, I don't think he'll ever talk about putting 401k in some kind of, putting military pension in a 401k so they could get it when they're 60, 65, when they're suffering from PTSD right now, you know. And military veterans don't live past 55 anyway.
Well, he is the same guy that voted against increasing separation pay for vets or active military personnel as well. So
yeah. Anyways, that's our government for you folks.
Yeah.
Well, this is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas. Don't go away, folks. When we come back, we're going to have Sheila Leslie, who is the Nevada State Senator representing Washoe County, and she's also the Veteran Specialty Court Administrator. I hope I got that title correctly. We'll be right back, folks.
Hey, listen up. If you're a military veteran, if you're related to a veteran, or if you know a veteran, You'll enjoy the Veterans Reporter radio show every Thursday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. with me. I'm your host, Chuck N. Baker. Every week, we will explore veterans issues and we'll have guests who will talk about topics of interest to and about the veterans community. And if you don't listen, you'll have to give me 20 push-ups.
9711 Southeastern Avenue, Suite H1 is the place to be. Get yourself a treat. Come to M&Y Snowballs to beat the heat. More than 40 regular flavors, 8 sugar-free flavors, or your choice of 2 cream flavors. Stuff your snowball with soft serve ice cream for $1 more. We have smoothies, soft drinks, cheese and nachos, and even more. New Orleans original flavor, all of which you can savor. We hope to see you there.
Americans have been fooled by politicians about illegal immigration. They make you think that if you bring up this topic, you are a racist. Did you know that America is the only country on this planet that does not enforce its federal immigration laws? For the fear of being called a racist. I am for legal immigration. I was born on the island of Jamaica, became an American citizen, served 12 years in the U.S. military, served in Desert Storm, and received a Presidential Unit Citation, National Defense Medal, and Marine Corps Commendation. Our immigration laws serve a purpose. I understand that this country was founded on immigration, but there is a wrong way and a right way. I'm here to tell you that illegal immigration is breaking our federal laws. Why don't you call me a racist? This is Steve Sanson.
Veterans in Politics' first annual VIP ball will be held at the Plaza Hotel and Casino in downtown Las Vegas on Saturday, October 15th at 5:30 p.m. Join us for a VIP reception, dinner, and dancing with special guest speaker, United States Congresswoman Shelley Berkeley. Other invited guest speakers will include Nevada Lieutenant Governor Brian Krolicki and Las Vegas Mayor Carolyn Goodman. Together we are moving veterans forward in Nevada. For tickets and sponsorships, call 702-813-8356 or visit our website at www.veteransinpolitics.com.
Well, we're back. This is Steve Sanson and Jim Jonas with Veterans in Politics. We got live calling from Washoe County, Sheila Leslie, who's the Nevada State Senator representing that great county. Senator, how you doing today?
I'm doing really well, thank you.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, ma'am?
Sure. I was an assemblywoman representing Reno for 12 years and then came up against the term limit law in 2009. So I was encouraged to run for the state senate, and I'm now in the middle of my first term. My specialty area in the state legislature is probably health and human services. I am a human services professional. I worked for a long time in the private sector, running a lot of programs for children, youth, and families. And then for the last 10 years, I've been working for the district court, where I manage all of what's called specialty courts. We have 8 different specialty courts in Reno in the district court level, ranging from adult drug court to family drug court, juvenile drug court, mental health court, and of course our newest court, which is Veterans Court.
Could you tell us how Washoe and Churchill County were able to get the Veterans Court aligned past the other counties?
Yeah, we were approached by some folks in our community, veterans for the most part. My former father-in-law, Chuck Fulkerson, who used to run the Nevada Office of Veteran Services, nagged me every time I saw him at a family dinner about why we didn't have a Veterans Court. And, of course, I had helped Speaker Buckley get the bill passed. So we approached the Administrative Office of the Courts. We wrote a grant, and we asked for some funding. And we put together an advisory committee to plan how we would go about opening a Veterans Court. And it started. And we certainly didn't have all the answers when we started, but we contacted the Veterans Administration here in Reno and got somebody to come over. Somebody from the Nevada Office of Veteran Services came over, and a great gentleman that we work with at the Vet Center here in Reno. So we put those people together with our court personnel, and we just started. And we started with just a few people, and now I think yesterday we were up to about 40 people in the court right now.
So how many veterans' lives has that court saved so far?
Well, it would be presumptuous of me to say that we saved people, but we have served, I would say we've served almost 100 veterans by now. We've been doing it for a couple of years. And you know, Steve, I do have to say in one instance, one vet I'm thinking about, I think the court actually did save his life. He came in very stressed out with PTSD, just on his last, you could just see it in his body language, on his last shred of frustration. And he was living in his car. He hadn't been able to get the benefits. He'd just come back. He'd been back for, a month or two, and he had been picked up for a misdemeanor. I can't even remember what it was, something minor. And we were able to work with him, get him into the vet center. I can't say enough about those therapists over here who got him into a PTSD group, got him the services he needed. And that veteran graduated a few months ago, and if you could see a before and after picture, or be in his presence, and you just feel the difference. Now he's happily living in Reno. He has his own apartment. He's going full-time to school. He's involved with the National Guard. He's just made a complete turnaround. And even though he's no longer involved with our court as a participant, he's helping us think about how to set up a formal mentor program. And I know he's volunteering his time over at the Vet Center to help other vets. So that particular gentleman, I do believe we saved his life.
Senator, has any other counties get a hold of you to ask you how the Veterans Court is working in your county and how they could implement it in theirs?
Yes, we have had several discussions. Most recently, Assemblyman Elliott Anderson from Las Vegas, who is a veteran himself, called me and called a bunch of people together, and we did a conference call for, a couple hours, and talked about specific steps that we take. There were some court personnel from the 8th Judicial District down there on the call, and they asked a lot of very good questions about how do we do this, how do we do that, and they seemed very interested in developing a court down there. I think they've even identified a judge who wants to do it. I can't remember her name.
Tobiasen? Is it Tobiasen?
I don't remember, to be honest. But she wasn't on the call. But they indicated they did have a judge who was interested, and that was probably about a month ago. So this is a good reminder for me to check back with those folks and see if we can help them in any way. We sent them our materials, our background materials, and, the forms that we've developed because, as in any program, you have to have some structure to it and a policy manual. And we sure stand ready to help them. We did have a few people, I think, from your association, actually, from Veterans in Politics, come up and actually visit our court. And they sat through the staffing sessions that we do with the judge where we discuss the cases and how we might approach it. And they actually sat through a court session. And I think when they left Reno, they were very committed to trying to get a program started down in Las Vegas.
Yeah, those individuals were Melody Howard and Matt Yoberin. How you pronounce
exactly.
That? And Vicki Maltman. Yeah. Senator, the other question is, how do you get your grant funds for that court?
Well, every year, the Administrative Office of the Courts, which is the Supreme Court, basically, puts out a request for a proposal. And in fact, it's out right now, and the applications are due on October 3rd, I believe. So every year, different courts can apply for funding to help them put a program together. Now, it doesn't pay for everything, of course. We've been able to get our county to support us by lending our time, and state pays for the judge. For us, it's just another court that we add on, so it's more work to do, but it fits very nicely in our specialty court system. What I've observed is that the veterans who are in Veterans Court really like being together. And as in any specialty court where they're interacting with the judge on a regular basis, you learn just as much by sitting in the audience and watching what happens, the good and the bad, with your fellow participants as you do with your own case. So having the synergy of the veterans there in the same room at the same time every week interacting with the court personnel, with the veterans personnel, with the judge, really creates a climate of, yes, we've had some issues in the past with the criminal justice system, but these people are here to help you, and look what can happen if you engage in your treatment and get back on track. And that's a very powerful thing to see. So I think anybody who actually sits through a session, and by the way, these are criminal courts, so these court sessions are open to the public. Anybody can come in, and we have visitors frequently. And I encourage that, especially by policymakers, because once you come in and sit through a session of Veterans Court or Mental Health Court, you get a whole different perspective about why some people end up in the criminal justice system and what it takes to help them solve their own problems so they don't come back.
I have one more question regarding this topic before Jim asks you other questions, Senator. Have you visited the jail or talked to the sheriff down there and find out how or if they could recognize or they do recognize PTSD in the jail once a veteran is incarcerated?
You mean the sheriff in Las Vegas?
No. The one
in Reno?
Right.
Yes, I have talked to the sheriff quite a bit, and in fact, when we set up this program, we were able to work with them on asking, trying to identify veterans when they're first arrested so we can see if we can divert them into an appropriate program. And we've worked with the jail over the years through our work in our mental health court. We have a very large mental health court, serves about 350 people a year. So we have worked with the jail to help them at the front and identify people with PTSD or some other mental illness right away so we can try and get them better treatment while they're in jail, and also see if we can divert them to a treatment program. Because these folks, everybody knows, people with a severe mental illness, they usually get worse when they're in jail. They're very difficult for the jail to handle. Their symptoms usually become worse while they're incarcerated. And, if they need treatment, we need to get them the help that they need. So our sheriff has been very progressive in that area and has really changed the way the jail operates in terms of identifying and trying to get treatment to those with PTSD and other mental illnesses, and to identify veterans right up front.
Would you mind giving Sheriff Gillespie a call, or is under-sheriff here?
I'd be happy to talk to him about it. You should really encourage him to talk to our sheriff. I think sometimes sheriff to sheriff is better than a legislator from Reno talking to a sheriff down there, but I'm willing to talk to anybody about this topic because I'm really passionate about it. A night in the jail up here is, I think they cost it out to about $114 a night. Getting treatment at the vet center is a whole lot less than that. It's better for the veteran. It's better for society. So I really do believe in this.
Senator, what do you get for $114? You get like feather down pillows? What?
I think you don't even get 3 hot meals anymore. I think breakfast is pretty minimal. Because
I heard somebody there's one roll of toilet paper in the holding cell, and somebody has to take it and use it for a pillow.
Oh, that's sad. Jail is not. I've been in the jail cells. I've seen the prison cells that we have, and it's certainly not luxurious.
And I'm not talking from experience either. I'm just something Jim told me.
Yeah, real funny, Steve. Wise.
Go ahead, Jim. You got some questions for the Senator?
Hey, Senator, this is Jim Jonas. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Okay, good. First, I want to thank you for all of your hard work for the Veterans Court and actually taking it to the other level and dealing with the sheriff, because we're having issues down here with that, and that's where Steve was going with that. So I just want to personally thank you for taking that on and all the stuff that you've done. One of the main questions that I have for you is it's a tax question.
Okay.
What conversation is going on in the legislature this past session that might help us with future sessions? Because my thing is that I'm not for raising taxes, but I think if you look at our tax structure now, it's so archaic that if it was changed to where just not necessarily increasing taxes, now it might increase revenue, But if you did it to where everybody was actually paying the taxes that they're supposed to be paying, I think it would help the state a lot. So my question is that I started really looking into the mining industry. And I know from a Republican standpoint, I hear a lot of Republican assemblymen and senators, basically they seem like they're scared to ask the mining companies for more money. What's your take on that? What are you guys trying to do as a Democrat caucus to try to get a proposal that the Republican might actually go along with?
Those are excellent questions, and I definitely will try and answer them from my point of view. I was the chair of the Revenue Committee this last session, and we tried very hard to get some interaction around making some changes in the revenue system, because I agree with you. We need to reform our system. It doesn't mean that you and I necessarily need to pay more taxes. We need to make sure that everyone is paying their fair share. And in my humble opinion, the people who aren't paying their fair share are, as you suggested, the mining industry, and I can address that in a minute, but also corporations. We have no real corporate tax, even though every surrounding state, it's over 10% in California, I think it's 4% in Utah, and it's 0% in Nevada. And we cannot keep running the state the way we've been running it for the last century, which is 2/3 of our state budget has been paid for by sales tax, which of course we pay, but so do tourists, and gaming tax. And we just can't continue with that cycle. So I think we need to have a serious conversation about revenue reform. We did put together a proposal to look at a services tax, because our economy is so service-based now, and also a margin tax, which is what Rick Perry actually put in place in Texas, which is not a gross receipts tax, it's not a net profits tax, it's somewhere in between. It's a way for business to participate. And, the sad thing is many Republicans came to me privately and said, these ideas make a lot of sense, but we can't support it. We can't do anything.
Right, because they signed the No New Tax Pledge.
Right.
Yeah.
We can't even have a public conversation. That privately they would say, your ideas make sense. And same thing with businesses. A lot of them said, we would rather pay this margin tax and get rid of the modified business tax, which nobody likes. I mean, I think it's a real job killer, and replace it with the margin tax. This is much more fair and equitable. And over the long term, we can see that this would adequately fund our state. But we could not get the other side to engage in any kind of a meaningful dialogue about it. Now, what I would like to see is the governor step up in this interim period that we have, because as you know, we have to get to 2/3 to do anything on revenue. And I'd love to see him step up and have this dialogue, because I run into lots of people like you, Republican, Democrat, Independent, who understand that we can't keep going down the same path.
So the only question I have for you on the corporate tax, why do you think that? It's obvious that we don't have a corporate tax, but why do you think we don't have a corporate tax? Why do you think that more corporations aren't coming into the state? That's something that's always kind of questioned me. I mean, I've heard that, our university system won't support the high-tech jobs. I've heard that said before. But I'm just kind of curious as to why corporations don't want to come here if we don't have a corporate tax.
Because I think a lot of corporations, it's not all about taxes. They are willing to pay their fair share. I mean, they don't want to move into a high-tax state necessarily. But you look at Silicon Valley. I grew up in California, and I went to college in the 70s when California had one of the best higher education system in the world, really. Community colleges were free. If you were a resident of California, you could go to community college and pay nothing. And I come from a lower middle class working family. I had to put myself through school. I was able to go to a good state university, work half-time, hitchhike to school, and get my degree. And it's not like that anymore, but they really put a high emphasis on education. And I think that's why Silicon Valley happened in California rather than Nevada. I think education and the inadequate funding, and what I hear from businesses, what they're very upset with in Nevada is they can't predict what their costs are going to be. Every time we have a session, we're we have a big deficit to fill. We have all this arguing. We have all these special sessions, and nothing ever happens. If we could just fix our tax system and say, okay, this is it. We're going to live with this for the next 20, 30 years.
Right.
Then I think you would see a lot more investment in Nevada.
What would you consider the actual state of Nevada to be at this point, especially knowing your expertise is health and human services? That's one thing that's always bugged me. I think that's something that's really lacking in the state, and I think it's one of the things that usually ends up getting cut first in the budget, unfortunately. What are you guys, has your caucus approached the Republicans on, if we keep cutting, how far can we actually cut health and human services?
Oh, absolutely. We have that conversation all the time. And what I found this session is a lot of my Republican colleagues, they care about people in Nevada too. They really do.
Right.
And I think it hurt them greatly. Some of the things we cut in that area were very painful to them as well as to me. What I can't understand, though, is, well, I do sort of understand it. I don't agree with it. It goes back to that no new tax.
Right.
They can't talk about it because it conflicts. I don't know if they're afraid of a challenge from the right. They're afraid of deviating in any way. But you just can't get them publicly to have this conversation. They just retreat to we can't have any new taxes. And, we have to get to 2/3. They know we can't get there, so they're not willing to take the risk. And that is the most frustrating part of being in politics today.
Okay, State Senator, those are all the questions I had for you. We're running a little short on time, but I really, again, I applaud your efforts and what you've done with the Veterans Court. And honestly, I mean, this is coming from a Republican, and I'm sure all my Republican friends that hear this are going to be beating me up all week about it. But I mean, we just got to come together. We got to fix the tax structure, like you said, and fix it so that companies know what they're facing. So,
thank you.
Good luck on that effort.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks for letting me be on your show.
Senator Leslie, do you have a contact information you'd like to put out?
Oh, absolutely. The best way to contact me is through my State Senate email. You can send me an email at sleslie at sen for Senate, sen.state.nv.us, or just go to the legislative website. All of our emails are right there for anyone to use.
Well, thank you so much, Senator Leslie. We appreciate all you're doing for the veterans and the state legislature for Nevada. That's Sheila Leslie, Nevada State Senator representing Washoe County. Don't go away, folks. We'll be right back with Susan Johnson, Clark County District Court Judge. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas with Veterans in Politics.
Veterans in Politics' first annual VIP ball will be held at the Plaza Hotel and Casino in downtown Las Vegas on Saturday, October 15th at 5:30 p.m. Join us for a VIP reception, dinner, and dancing with special guest speaker United States Congresswoman Shelley Berkley. Other invited guest speakers will include Nevada Lieutenant Governor Brian Krolicki and Las Vegas Mayor Carolyn Goodman. Together we are moving veterans forward in Nevada. For tickets and sponsorships, call 702-813-8356 or visit our website at www.veteransinpolitics.com.
While growing up, I've always asked my family, who is my father? I was told the name of a man. When I became older, I looked for this man and found him. He thought that I was his son as well, but after a DNA test, it was discovered that my family was lying to me all my life. I pressured my family to give me the real identity of my father. I then became suspicious and took my grandfather's DNA. After I buried my grandfather, 2 days later, I discovered that my grandfather was, in fact, my biological father. I questioned myself and asked, what is my purpose on this earth? I should have never been conceived. But when I look at my 4 children, I knew that everything happens for a reason. This is Steve Sanson. Find your identity.
Veterans in Politics takes a proactive approach to provide you, the veteran, with the political voice for which you fought and served.
Veterans in Politics is becoming the premier veteran organization of the 21st century, with political candidate interviews, insight, and endorsements.
Public speaking engagements in support of American values.
Radio shows to keep you updated on the latest in veteran and military support operations.
Providing job placement and business support.
Go to veteransinpolitics.com today and do your part in defending liberty.
Hey, listen up. If you're a military veteran, if you're related to a veteran, or if you know a veteran, you'll enjoy the Veterans Reporter radio show every Thursday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. with me. I'm your host, Chuck N. Baker. Every week, we will explore veterans' issues and we'll have guests who will talk about topics of interest to and about the veterans community. And if you don't listen, you'll have to give me 20 push-ups.
Well, we're back. This is Steve Sanson and Jim Jonas with Veterans in Politics. We got Susan Johnson, who's a Clark County District Court judge. Judge Johnson, how you doing today, ma'am?
I'm doing great.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm pretty much a lifelong resident of Clark County, Nevada. I've been here since November of 1963. So
wow.
You do them, yeah.
63?
Yeah, 63.
You don't look past 35.
Oh, are you kind?
She's Susan Johnson. If anybody ever never met Susan Johnson, she's a gorgeous blonde.
I'm blushing. But anyway, I grew up here, went to high school here, graduated from Clark High School in 1977, and then UNLV in 1982 with a bachelor's of science in business administration, in public accounting, and investment finance. It's a dual degree. From there, I went to law school at McGeorge School of Law because in Sacramento, because we did not have a law school at the time here in Clark County. And then, of course, I practiced for 21 years. I was an AV-rated attorney, practiced in various areas. I was in my own practice for about 12 years just before I was elected to district court judge in November of 2006, and I've been a judge since January of 2007, and I am assigned primarily to hear civil and constructional defect cases.
You trying to tell us something? Don't ask you any criminal questions?
Well, I don't hear criminal cases except on an overflow basis, so unfortunately my experience in that area is rather dismal.
So speaking of construction defects, tell us about that Quinn case, the one that's in the news. It deals with construction defects, doesn't it?
You mean Quan?
Quan.
Okay, yeah. Well, unfortunately, there's not much I can tell you about that. I'm not in the loop in the criminal investigation, obviously. Ms. Quan did appear before me representing various homeowners associations, but I have not really seen her since about September or so of 2008. So I don't know a whole lot about that.
How about the Harmon Tower?
What about the Harmon Tower?
That I guess another company has come in. Didn't they say that the building was it wouldn't withstand an earthquake or something like that?
The one in City Center.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, the only thing I know is the same thing you know about that, and that's just what I've read in the paper. Right. Nothing has been filed yet that I know, or at least it has not come before me.
So Judge Johnson, talking about construction and construction defects and all that, do you know what's going on with all these skeleton steel that's sticking out of the ground? Is there any lawsuits against anybody as far as leaving it there like that the way it is, or no? Or
I have not had any cases like that come before me anyway. Currently, typically we have about 300 constructional defect cases, and they're dealing primarily with the residential constructional defects. I think we are at about 260 to 270 cases, which of course are divided among the three judges that handle those cases. And I might note that the other two judges that handle those are Judge Alan Earl and Judge Timothy Williams. So we all three handle those cases.
Well, tell us a little bit about construction law so people could understand exactly what what you look for and exactly your day-to-day function as far as your job's concerned.
Okay. Well, first of all, we typically handle, the three of us handle what we call Chapter 40 cases. And if you were to look in the Nevada Revised Statutes, you'd be looking at NRS 40.600 to 695. And those cases, at first, it's basically that statute is a right of repair statute. And the whole idea of Chapter 40 is to give builders an opportunity to repair once they are notified by a homeowner of certain constructional defects in their home. If the builder elects to repair, then, no harm, no foul, everything's fine. But if they don't, then that comes into our courts, and then we deal with it from there. Some of these cases can deal with one residential property, or it can deal with, I think Judge Williams last year handled what is known as the Kitech matter, and I think that dealt with over 36,000 homes.
So, Judge, have you seen since you've been here since you said 63? 1963. Oh, and it's always nice to have a fellow cart charger. I'm not going to tell you the year I graduated. Anyway,
I'm sure it was after 1977.
It was last year.
Yeah. So, have you seen? Is there, now that we're talking about residential? I remember when we were just, of course, residential. We were just expanding like crazy. Did you ever handle any of the cases of, like, I heard a lot of homes like out in the Henderson area that were they had structural defects as far as the foundation, because a lot of that area that they were developing in was actually former landfill.
I was not the judge assigned to those cases, and although I have been assigned to some cases that have dealt with, Pahrump has had some issues with respect to settlement of foundations. Unfortunately, those cases are still pending, and I cannot discuss them.
Judge, I remember there's one recent case that was in front of the Board of County Commissioners has to deal with Rhodes Ranch building up somewhere in the Red Rock area. Has that ever came before the courts yet?
I'm not understanding your question.
There was a case in front of the Board of County Commissioners as far as Rhodes Ranch building up towards the Red Rock area.
Oh, are you talking about a zoning issue?
Yeah, they were complaining that Rhodes Ranch wanted to develop too far out and too close to Red Rock. So there was a bunch of people that got together and they signed.
Oh, well, I know what you're talking about. I read that in the paper, but now that would not be a situation that would come specifically to one of the constructional defect judges, and we do now have 32 judges that are assigned to the civil and criminal division who are housed primarily in the Regional Justice Center, and any one of those judges may have been assigned that case if it was filed. So I know nothing about it.
So basically your job is to award monetary money.
No, I don't award monetary damage. That's not primarily my job. My job is to dispense justice, Steve.
Explain that. Elaborate a little bit about that.
She got you, Steve.
Elaborate a little bit about that, Judge.
Okay,
what exactly does that mean?
Understand that we hear, obviously a plaintiff files a claim, and it is for the court to ferret out if it is a viable claim and so forth. And if it is a viable claim and it is something that goes before the judge as opposed to a jury, then, maybe monetary damages will be awarded. But there are many cases where a verdict or a decision is made in favor of a defendant.
So what's the most dollars have you awarded to a defendant?
To a defendant?
Or to a plaintiff, sorry.
I don't know.
All right.
I've been on the bench for almost 5 years, so it's very difficult for me to...
All right, let me ask you another question. A lot of these are jury trial or bench trial?
Well, I would have to say between my civil and criminal docket, it's about half and half. A lot of parties want their matters heard before the judge, and then a lot want them heard before the jury.
Okay.
Have you seen an uptake in cases since the economy has slowed, or is it about the same?
Well, actually, before I came here, I was looking at some of the statistics, and in 2009, we had about 32,000 plus civil cases alone filed in Clark County. That number dropped in 2010 to about 28,000 and change. So there has been a slight decrease in filings, but I don't know what the numbers are in 2011 yet. With respect to constructional defect cases, in 2007 we had record numbers filed. We had 113 constructional defect cases filed. In 2008, I believe it was 103. In 2009, it was like 107. 2010, it was 89. And I think you're going to see an increase from the 2010 numbers in constructional defect cases filed. We had 24 alone filed in May of 2011.
Because that's kind of what I was thinking with the economy slowing. They'd probably get. Do you think? I mean, this is a hypothetical, but do you think that a lot of these defects? Does it seem that it might just be the fact that we just built too fast? I mean, were they just throwing up homes too quick were we too quick to hand out building permits? Basically, do you think? I mean, just your opinion.
Yeah, that's kind of difficult for me to say. I've seen some of that alleged in the cases that I've had. Primarily, the constructional defect cases, they hinge on either water, leaks,
right,
or foundations, soils.
Yeah.
So those are primarily the areas that we've seen.
Okay.
You know something, Judge Johnson. I'm listening to you talk about constructional defects, and I remember, I think it was about a year or so ago, the Regional Justice Center, the current Regional Justice Center, had some constructional defects of its own. If any of those ever came before you?
Well, they did not. Actually, there was an arbitrator that handled the matter dealing with the Regional Justice Center, maybe because they figured that all the judges there might have a conflict of interest. I don't know.
You think?
But you might. But in any event, they did have it go before an arbitrator, and I believe that that there was an arbitration decision rendered in favor of the builder, and I want to say that about $59 million was awarded. But you'd have to.
You're kidding me?
No,
the builder.
You're gonna have
After
to read the paper.
2
I don't know.
years of off the time chart. And,
and they blew the budget out of the water and everything.
Yeah,
else.
and it blew the budget out the water, and the courthouse is not even big enough to hold all the judges that are there. Judges are all over the place. They're at the Phoenix building. I think put them back in the old courthouse over there. A lot of the judges like being over there. I know Judge Mosley loved it. You said he was on the second floor. Now he's on the 12th floor or something.
Well, I will say this. The problem with the old courthouse, from what I understand, is that there's asbestos issues. But with respect, in fact, I might even talk about the room that's there at the Regional Justice Center. We are building 8 courtrooms on the 3rd floor, which should alleviate some of the traffic going up and down the elevators so that attorneys can go up the escalators to those. Those are slated to be completed by October of 2012. In the interim, we have essentially 32 civil criminal judges housed using 23 available courtrooms. And we are doing a real good job, and I am going to pat myself and my staff and Thelma Stapley a little bit for this, because we are working on coordinating putting all of the judges using those courtrooms, and we are being very efficient with the time that is spent with those courtrooms. I think if you go there, and I know that I've seen you around the courthouse, Steve.
Not me.
Not you? No, not
it's
that.
My brother.
Okay, your brother, whatever. That you would notice that we don't have too many open courtrooms. They're usually occupied.
That's
At
true.
least as of this year, you've seen them occupied pretty much all the time.
Do you know if the banks go after homeowners for destroying the property before they get short sailed on, or before they get foreclosed on, like putting cement in the toilet and taking off the knobs and doors? And
believe it or not, I have not had any of those cases come before me, but I do understand that some laws were put into place, they were enacted, that punish folks criminally for doing just that.
So that would be criminal.
That would be a criminal action, sure.
How about the law?
Oh, and and it could be a civil action too, because the banks would be actually the DA's office.
Money damage.
Yeah, that would be a civil action.
How about the banks taking care of the property once it's been foreclosed on, as far as like the landscaping and stuff of that nature, the pools and. Because I heard that they were trying to pass a law to say the bank forecloses, they need to keep that property up.
Have we seen any lawsuits on that? I have not.
Okay.
You think HOAs serve a purpose, Judge Johnson?
Especially since you got a sub and then you got a master. Really?
Because I'm thinking I'm putting monies out for every month for absolutely nothing.
Well, I think what you probably need to do is go to those HOA meetings, demand a budget, and find out what they're doing with the money that you're paying.
Especially the non-gated communities.
Well, again, that's all I could suggest is that you go to the HOAs and ask them how they're spending the money.
Yeah, Steve, we'll ask for another audit.
Yeah. Judge Johnson, you have a daughter, right?
I have 2 daughters.
Which one did you bring here last time?
Well, I don't know, but I've got an 18-year-old that is attending the University of Kansas, and I've got one that's going to law school at Boyd now.
Oh, that's right. Judge Johnson, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Oh, my God, she needs to go poo-poo pee-pee. I got to go. But before I go, could you give your contact information?
Yes, you can reach me by telephone, 702-671-0547. That gets you to my judicial executive assistant, Laura. And then I can be reached by email at johnsonsu@clarkcountycourts.us.
Well, thank you, Judge Johnson. Thank you very much for coming in and talking with us this afternoon. And next week, ladies and gentlemen, we have Frank Ventura. He's Veterans Affairs and VIP member. And my co-host next week will be Deborah the Banker Vick. Thank you, guys, and that's it. See you next week.